Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Friday, December 27th. Rumors, reports swirling that the Jaguars are going to be making moves this offseason when it comes to their leadership. In all likelihood, it feels like Doug Peterson is on his way out in Jacksonville after 3 seasons. First year and a half, pretty darn impressive. After that, it has been an absolute avalanche of poor play for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it feels like it's time for someone else to come in and lead this football team. I'd be remiss to not mention it, though. Like, you hire a new head coach, great. Maybe you can have a flash in the pan. Maybe you can have a year or two of sustained success. I don't think, unless you move on from your general manager, Trent Baalke, who is just as much of a problem as the coaching situation is right now, that you're going to find a stable that you're going to build a stable franchise. You need to have people that are in lockstep, people that have the same vision. If Trent Baalke is here, that will not be the case, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but I think the Jaguars absolutely need to get rid of Trent Baalke. His resume over the last decade speaks for itself, right? It has not been good. But right now, we're going to talk about Joe Brady. Is he the man for the job for the Jaguars as the potential head coach in Jacksonville? The resume is sterling as an offensive mind, as an offensive play caller. He's risen up the ranks incredibly quickly. He is only 35 years old, only a little bit older than I am, which is absolutely crazy. But, started as a linebackers coach at William & Mary in 2013, 2014, graduate assistant at Penn State for a couple years, New Orleans Saints offensive assistant 2017, 2018, and LSU, his lone year there, passing game coordinator and wide receiver coach. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, right? Justin Jefferson. It was incredible. It was so impressive that he got an offensive coordinator job in the NFL the very next year, and that didn't last very long. I thought he personally got scapegoated when the Panthers, it didn't work out there overall. Very next year, got back into it with the Buffalo Bills quarterbacks coach, was named the interim offensive coordinator last year after they moved on from Ken Dorsey. He's now the offensive coordinator full-time with the Bills, and he's done a tremendous job coordinating offenses. You just haven't seen a ton, right? Like, even at LSU, he was not the offensive coordinator. He was the pass game coordinator and wide receiver coach. But what you have seen from him over the last year and a half with the Bills, with Josh Allen, has been truly impressive. I don't think there's any other way to put it. His creativity, the different ways he can scheme up against different defenses, it's been impressive. The resume, while short, is pretty impressive. Getting Joe Burrow to play at that level at LSU, obviously unbelievable talent around him, vaulting him up to the number 1 overall pick. But the question with Joe Brady is the same question that you have with a Ben Johnson, with a Liam Cohen. Both of those guys are obviously great offensive minds that can dial it up in a big way and get the most out of their talent. How do you lead a whole team? Like, as an offensive coordinator, your job is so much smaller and more focused than it is as a head coach. How do you lead an entire building, an entire roster, an entire staff, right? It's difficult. It is really difficult. It's high pressure. It's more work. How do you handle talking to the media 4 times every week when things aren't going as well as you would hope? It's a difficult proposition to go from a coordinator to a coach. It is. Now, lots of people do it successfully. I think for any of these guys, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, Joe Brady, whoever it may be, if you're an offensive coach, you probably need to delegate the defense to a defensive coordinator, somebody who you trust to absolutely basically be the head coach of the defense. Now, there are a few exceptions here with coaches that kind of manage the whole thing. Dan Campbell in Detroit, he was a tight end, kind of an offensive coach, but he was never a play caller. So he is just that leader role for the Detroit Lions, right? But very few coaches come to prominence that way. Usually, you do a great job coordinating one side of the ball. You go through a round of interviews and you do a good job. You get offered the job, and that's how you become a head coach in the NFL, generally speaking. But how are you delegating the other if you're sticking with I'm going to be basically the offensive coordinator and the guy leading the whole group when it comes to team meetings, how are you delegating on the other side of the ball? Who are you hiring to be your position coaches, right? Who's the general manager? We talked about that. If Trent Baalke's still in town, maybe you find a flash in the pan year, but you're not going to have sustained success over a long period of time because he's not going to have the same vision. He doesn't know how to build a roster consistently. I just think that his priorities are out of whack as a general manager. His process is out of whack a lot as well. You got to find someone you have a shared vision with. And maybe if you bring in Joe Brady, you're able to bring along one of the Buffalo Bills top executives under Brandon Beane. Brian Gaine is there. You've also got another executive there. I can't remember his name, who also has had interest around the league in potentially becoming a general manager type. So maybe you could bring over more of a Buffalo Bills flavor. I don't see anything wrong with that, but it's just such a risky proposition to consider. And this goes for everyone, not just the offensive guys, the defensive guys as well. Although I do think you look at defensive coordinators and they're more naturally, generally speaking, they're more naturally leadership oriented. Defense is so much more emotional, in my opinion, than offense is, generally speaking. But looking at the three offensive guys we've really kind of taken a look at here, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, Joe Brady, is the fact that Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen have done it with different guys make them more attractive. Like Ben Johnson has done it with at an extremely high level with Jared Goff, right? Liam Cohen, Baker Mayfield. These are not, or they were not, playing like Pro Bowlers before they started working with these coaches. Whereas you take a look at what Joe Brady has had to work with. I mean, Josh Allen. Yeah, I mean, anybody could do a good job with Josh Allen, right? But he probably has done the best job of anyone with Josh Allen. And obviously, Joe Burrow in 2019 did a great job with him. So I think as offensive minds, all three of these guys make sense. And it's really going to be about who can be that leader, who can delegate the best, who can have the most aligned vision with the general manager, with the front office. How does that all work out? We don't know what it's going to look like, but those are the questions I'm asking. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. And if I'm looking at these candidates right now, all the coaching candidates out there, and we're going to continue to talk about more of them, I'd have to say I do think that Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, what they have done, their resumes are a little bit more extensive than Joe Brady's. They've got a little bit more experience than Joe Brady. So I would have them probably in tier one. And the interview process is going to be critical. What they share with whoever's conducting these interviews, Shad Khan presumably, and some others. But I would have Cohen and Johnson up there. I would have Brian Flores up there, Mike Vrabel. I just think that the way those two guys can lead football teams and lead defenses would be really special. The biggest question, though, is if you hire a Flores or a Vrabel, who are they bringing in as their OC? That's terrifying to me. And that's why I would have the offensive guys at the top, because I think the offense, making sure that you're getting more out of this offense and leading this offense in a manner that suits Trevor Lawrence's skill sets and Brian Thomas and the rest of those guys, is just a little bit more important. I do. But, for them to have ultimate success as a head coach, Liam Cohen or Ben Johnson or even Joe Brady, they've got to get the right hires. Brian Flores and Mike Vrabel, if you're going to bring one of them in, I like them both a lot. I like Aaron Glenn too from Detroit. Who's going to be your offensive coordinator? That's going to be critical. So I'd have all these guys on my short list: Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel, Aaron Glenn. They're all really interesting names, but there's questions with every single one. And so, and we probably won't find out the answers until at least the answers about, if you're an offensive guy, who you're bringing in on the defensive side of the ball, who the GM's going to be. If you're a defensive guy, who you're bringing in the offensive side of the ball, what's this vision for this football team, all that stuff until after the process is all said and done. So, going to be fascinating. Would love to know what y'all think about the Jaguars' potential head coaching opening. Of course, Doug Peterson is still the head coach. We're going to be talking to him soon. But I think Joe Brady's an interesting name. I think Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel, Aaron Glenn, all those guys would be at the very, very top of my list at this point. Again, let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.